The 2010 Ecuador crisis took place on the 30th of September 2010, when elements of the national police blockaded highways, occupied the national parliament, blocked the Mariscal Sucre International Airport in Quito and the José Joaquín de Olmedo International Airport in Guayaquil, and took over TV Ecuador's station, in what they claimed was a strike to oppose a government-sponsored law that supposedly reduced the benefits. Since the early hours of Thursday morning, unrest and looting had been reported in 7 provincial capitals of the country due to the lack of law enforcement. President Rafael Correa went to the police headquarters in Quito despite the recommendations from his own security personnel not to attend and make things worse. He was ill-received. He made a harsh speech in which he accused the police ranks of treason to the people and the country, and dared them to kill him. After he was pelted by the police ranks and a tear gas canister went off, Correa was escorted to a hospital in the same compound. According to El País, the New York Times, El Correo and Correa himself, the policemen then surrounded the building and prevented him from leaving. For the hospital, Correa declared a state of emergency and said that a coup d'état was taking place, and attributed responsibility to the government's opposition. According to state news agency Andes, police radio recordings from the night of the 30th of September revealed that the police intended to kill Correa. Thousands of civilians came out to support Correa and gathered around the hospital in which he was held hostage. Clashes occurred between rebellious police forces and loyal army and police forces, who successfully rescued Correa after he had allegedly been held for 10 hours at the hospital. Ecuador's health minister said the events had left 8 dead and 274 people wounded. Of the casualties, it is known that 1 was a university student, and that a police officer and 2 military personnel involved in the rescue operation were also among those killed. The Union of South American Nations, the Spanish Prime Minister José Luis Rodríguez Zapatero, and the Secretary General of the Organization of American States, José Miguel Insulza, referred to the events as an attempted coup d'état. Background: Ecuador's recent history has been characterized by institutional instability. Between 1997 and 2007, Ecuador has had 8 presidents, and 2 of them had been overthrown in political unrest: Jamil Mawad in 2000 and Lucio Gutierrez in 2005. Since then, Correa's País Alliance has won 5 consecutive elections, including 2 presidential elections, a referendum to modify the constitution and a referendum to approve the new constitution. A poll published on the 15th of September 2010 showed Correa had a 67% approval rating in Quito and 59% in Guayaquil. Public Service Organic Law. The Public Service Organic Law was drafted by the executive, and was perceived by the armed forces and law enforcement as introducing cuts to the benefits. The draft generated much controversy during parliamentary debates. However, it passed through first, second and plenary rounds of parliamentary votes in the National Assembly. On the 3rd of September, President Correa made a partial objection to the law proposal. According to an Ecuavisa report, government sources indicated that Correa considered dissolving parliament and calling for new elections due to disagreements within his own party with respect to his concerns over the new legislation. As of the 30th of September, after 15 months of debate, the law proposal had not yet been finalized by the Assembly. It was argued by some that the police were ill-informed of the new measures, which were not meant to cut benefits. Rather, the benefits were intended to be provided by other means. As the events developed, officials and the Latin America media, as well as Korea supporters, expressed concern that they could follow the same course as the 2009 Honduran coup d'etat, in which another left-leaning Latin American president, Manuel Zelaya, was overthrown by the military during a constitutional crisis. The ruling government in Honduras sent a message of support for Korea after news of the crisis in Ecuador broke. Attack on the president. On the morning of the 30th of September, members of the Ecuadorian armed forces and national police occupied several barracks and set up roadblocks in 9 of the country's provincial capitals to demand that special bonuses paid to the police and military. These police and armed forces occupied the National Assembly building. The Ecuadorian Air Force shut down Mariscal Sucre International Airport in Quito and José Joaquín de Olmedo International Airport in Guayaquil, forcing the closure for several hours. Police also blocked roads in Guayaquil, the largest city of Ecuador, and reported unrest in 2 other cities. Looters also ransacked banks, supermarkets and shopping malls in the port city of Guayaquil. President Correa went to the police barracks in Quito, where he arrived at 11:00 a.m. After being ill-received, an honor guard was not assembled. He first tried to have a dialogue with the police and criticized their actions as treason to the people and the country. But after hearing hostile police chant "Lucio Presidente, Lucio Presidente," he screamed, "If you want to kill the president, here he is. Kill me if you want to. Kill me if you are brave enough." Quote. After Correa had left the barracks, he was attacked by the police with a tear gas canister that almost hit Correa's head. Demonstrators tried to kick his knee that had recently been operated on. Correa was walking with a cane because of the operation. Correa was escorted to a hospital in the same compound. Police forces outside the hospital building surrounded it and kept him from leaving. A helicopter tried to evacuate him and his entourage, but was prevented from landing by obstacles in the landing pad. They also arrested 1 member of his close protection team. Reforma Nacional, however, reported that 2 hospital employees denied it was a hostage situation. El País reported recorded dialogues between the policemen, in which they announced their intentions to kill him or put him out of office. Correa said that the police had tried to break into his room at the hospital, but police still loyal to the president secured the floor. For the hospital, Correa declared a state of emergency, after he accused the opposition and security forces of an attempted coup and orchestrating the protests. He stated that he was declaring a 5-day state of emergency in an attempt to restore order. This measure forces all radio and television stations to integrate as an emergency broadcast system for a country-wide live broadcast of the events. He later spoke to national radio from the hospital. He said he would not negotiate until the protests were called off and added that he would leave either as president or as a corpse, and called on the organizers of the protest to be punished. Reports indicated the armed forces remained loyal to the constitutional order. Correa said that a rescue operation had been ready for a few hours but was postponed so as to avoid more bloodshed. Correa's supporters, as well urged by the country's foreign minister to rescue the president, were stopped from meeting the president, and clashed with the police around Quito. They reportedly chanted, "This is not Honduras," in reference to the 2009 coup in that country. Hundreds of Correa supporters gathered outside the National Assembly, which was seized by striking police, while Interior Minister Gustavo Jalk met with representatives of the rebellious police. By afternoon, Telesur reported that the police, accompanied by former President Lucio Gutierrez's lawyer Pablo Guerrero, Maduro, attacked Ecuadorian state television, and took abrupt control of the channels. Many attacks on journalists and photojournalists by rebellious police have been denounced in Quito and other cities. Workers and equipment of Ecuador TV, Radio Pública, Ecuavisa, Teleamazonas, and El Comercio were object of aggression, several Ecuadorian journalists being wounded. International journalists from AFP and Telesur have also been attacked. Rescue operation. In the late hours of the evening, 3 teams of special police and army teams and elite army troops, part of a force of around 500 uniformed personnel loyal to their allegiance, rescued him after clashes with rebellious police forces inside and outside the hospital building. The rescue from the hospital was shown live on Ecuadorian television. Bullets hit his room during the rescue operation. Venezuelan-American lawyer Gerlingas stated that investigators concluded coup forces were attempting to assassinate him before he could be rescued. As Correa was rescued, his armored car was hit by 4 bullets, but the investigation shows that the car, a Nissan Patrol, that had been used to rescue the president didn't have any impacts, and it is still unclear where was the black armored vehicle when it was hit. Correa was then taken to the presidential palace, where he gave a fiery speech to the public thanking those who supported him and came to Quito to support the citizens' revolution and democracy in our country, and the members of the government who risked their lives in support of him. He also thanked UNASUR and the other Latin American countries that supported him. He criticized those who attempted the coup, saying, "How could they call themselves police after acting like this against the people?" and said there would not be any immunity for the perpetrators, nor would there be any negotiation under duress. He called the attackers cowards, and claimed to have spoken to officers who were holding him hostage at the hospital and asked them 2 questions. "Have you ever been paid this well? And have you read the law?" He claimed they said they had never been better treated than through his administration, and that they had not read the controversial law. When the protesters asked him to revoke the law, he answered that he did not have the power to do so, and that he would leave as president or as a corpse. And in the end he left with his head held high. He asserted that the law would not be repealed, because he said everything can be done through negotiation but not by force. Quote, he concluded his speech saying, "History would judge them, and with greater courage we will ensure that our citizens' revolution would not be stopped by anything, until victory, always." His criticism included statements saying his administration had supported the police and were stabbed in the back by those who bring shame to the national police, even though it was only a few members of the police who acted only for financial reasons and for medals and honors, out of ignorance of the real content of the law. Alleged perpetrators. President Correa said that the uprising was incited for political motives, and accused former President Lucio Gutierrez and other opposition politicians for attempting to instigate a coup. He said that there were infiltrates from well-known political parties among the rebellious police. Police were also heard chanting "Lucio Gutierrez President" while Correa spoke to them. Gutierrez, former lawyer, was reported to have been spotted amongst a crowd of officers that stormed the building of the state television ECTV and cut off the transmission. Lucio Gutierrez, a former president ousted by a popular uprising and leader of the opposition Sociedad Patriotica Party, who had participated in the coup d'etat against Jamil Mawad, said that the only responsible for the situation was Correa himself and his abusive, corrupt and prepotent government. He accused President Correa of trying to divert the attention from corruption scandals affecting his government. Gutierrez said, "It's true that we want to take Korea out, but with votes, and he shall finish his term so we can defeat him in free election, non-fraudulent." During the incident, Gutierrez suggested the dissolution of the National Assembly as a solution to avoid the possibility of bloodshed in the country, coinciding with the actions of the police who had taken occupation of the Assembly building. Journalist Jean-Guy Allard claimed on Radio del Sur that the coup attempt confirmed a 2008 report by Defense Minister Javier Ponce on infiltration of the Ecuadorian police by United States intelligence agents, including funding of police equipment and operations, and payment of informers. In response to the 2008 report, U.S. Ambassador Heather Hodges stated that the U.S. works with the Ecuadorian military and police on objectives that are very important for security, including the fight against drug trafficking. Allard also referred to former CIA agent Philip Agee's description of U.S. involvement with the Ecuadorian police in the early 1960s. He cited his suspicion about the visit of several United States officials to Ecuador, officially to deepen relations. During the months prior to the coup attempt was a pretext. Pepe Escobar of Asia Times also alleged that everyone in South America knows of U.S. involvement, as he cited similar reaction to the Honduran coup. Russia Today alleged a link between the School of the Americas and the attempted coup. Venezuelan-American lawyer Eva Gerlinger claimed that the coup attempt was part of a systematic, U.S.-supported plan to destabilize member states of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Americas. She alleged that U.S. Ambassador Heather Hodges was sent to Ecuador by former U.S. President George W. Bush, with the intention of sowing destabilization against Korea, in case the Ecuadorian president refused to subordinate himself to Washington's agenda, and that Hodges increased the budget of USAID and the NED for social and political groups that promote U.S. interests. Gerlinger claimed that certain progressive social groups received financing and guidelines in order to provoke destabilizing situations in the country that go beyond the natural expressions of criticism and opposition to a government. Quote, according to Gerlinger, USAID's 2010 budget in Ecuador $38 million. Gerlinger referred to the indigenous political party Pachakutik Movement's press release on the 30th of September asking for Korea's resignation on the grounds that his dictatorial attitude had generated serious political turmoil and internal crisis. Quote, in the statement, Pachakutik leader Clever Jimenez said that the situation of the police and armed forces in the coup attempt should be understood as a just action by public servants, whose rights have been made vulnerable. Gerlinger alleged that Pachakutik was funded by NED and USAID and that its call for Korea's resignation and its support for the mutiny was an example of the U.S. plans to destabilize ALBA member states. Pachakutik strongly denied having any relationship at all with the organism known as USAID, previously NED, not today nor ever, and accused the Ecuadorian government of having accepted USAID NED funding. Gerlinger responded by referring to a National Democratic Institute report from 2007 describing Pachakutik being trained by the NDI in triangle of party best practices and strategic planning methodologies as part of NDI's Latin American, Caribbean political party network of over 1,400 individual members, funded under NED core grants 2000-2031, 2001-2048, 2003-2028, and 2004-2036. The United States government denied any involvement and deemed the accusations as unsubstantiated. The United States had already declared support for Korea through its ambassador to the organization. Organization of American States. U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton also expressed full support for President Rafael Correa and the institutions of democratic government in that country. On the 5th of October, Ecuadorian Foreign Minister Ricardo Patino said, "I firmly believe that Mr. Obama had nothing to do with this. I trust that his main authorities also didn't." Relations between the Ecuadorian and United States governments regarding the Ecuadorian police forces had been strained since 2009, when the Ecuadorian government was unhappy about United States involvement in the appointment of Ecuadorian police officials. Investigations. On the 1st of October, Julio C. Ecutea Cueva, Quito's Metropolitan Police Chief Marcelo Echeverria, the provincial police commander, and Manuel E. Rivadeneira Teo, the head of the barracks where Correa was attacked, were detained. They were released the next day but barred from leaving Ecuador pending an investigation for negligence, rebellion and attempted assassination, according to prosecutor Gonzalo Marco Freire. Manuel E. Rivadeneira Teo was alleged by Allard to have trained at the School of the Americas. The School of the Americas watch lists Rivadeneira as having trained at the SOA from the 25th of February to the 18th of April 1980, in the C-8 Armed Combat Cadet Group. On the 5th of October, Fidel Arroyo, close collaborator of Lucio Gutierrez, was detained for investigations about his role in the uprising, as TV has shown him among the rebellious police in Quito in the early hours of the strike. Also, recorded dialogues between the policemen that surrounded the hospital where Rafael Correa was kept were undisclosed. In them, the policemen announced their intentions to kill the president or have him out of office. Interior Minister Gustavo Jalk announced the arrest of 46 police officers for alleged participation in the revolt. He claimed prosecutors had voice recordings that implicate them. Correa also warned that there was still an ongoing conspiracy within the police ranks that could pose a threat, as he called for firm punishment against accused. Aftermath. After the day's events, 4 people were confirmed dead, one of whom was a university student, and the others were a police officer and 2 military personnel involved in the rescue operation. 193 were injured, 24 of them seriously. 40 of them were personnel of the armed forces. Reports indicated the police were back to work the next day and Guayaquil was back to normal. The chief of police, Freddy Martinez, took responsibility and resigned following the attacks, saying, "A commander shown such lack of respect by his subordinates cannot stay in charge." The government said it would not purge the police force but were looking for those responsible who would not be pardoned. Patricio Franco, the newly appointed police chief, asked the public to trust the police, saying the revolt was led by a group of foolish and crazy people who acted violently. He also stressed the role of infiltrates. On the 1st of October, Correa issued a 3-day national mourning period for the dead, but did not revoke the 5-day state of emergency as the country gradually returned to normality. Foreign Minister Ricardo Patino warned that the situation might not be over yet. "We cannot claim total victory. We have overcome the situation for now, but we cannot relax. The coup attempt may have roots out there. We have to find them and pull them up." Correa told UNASUR foreign ministers that they wanted to provoke a civil war. The media also speculated that the crisis could mean a popularity boost for Correa, who had lost some support in recent months. It also cited Correa's mixed relationship with the armed forces since taking office, and this crisis could force a more delicate line working with the military. Previously he won over military chiefs using increases in salary hikes and appointments to what were considered cushy state jobs. Quote, If the police protests blow over, Korea will likely be forced to negotiate to keep the ranks calm. However, the international media also cited Korea's popularity among the poor for his spending oil largesse on welfare programs and a firm stance against foreign investors. He may now be forced to boost public spending and seek alternative sources of credit after Ecuador's 2008 default on about $3 billion in debt. Additionally, foreign oil companies in Ecuador have until November to sign new contracts that would boost state control on the oil industry. On the 2nd of October, Korea's government and his parliamentary bloc announced an agreement to modify some aspects of the Public Service Organic Law that worried the police and the armed forces. On the 5th of October, the government decreed a salary increase for the police and the armed forces. Defense Minister Javier Pons said that the adjustment was programmed since before the crisis. The emergency rule was extended into the week following the raid, to allow the transfer of protection of the National Assembly to the military.